Welcome to the Envelope's Emmy Contenders series. I'm Lorraine Ollie. Today we're talking with Jeffrey Wright, who plays Bernard Lowe and Arnold Weber in the TV series Westworld. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I
Got
just
a great band, by the way.
a great band.
Yeah, Colbert has a great band, Kimmel, but this band is another level.
You know, there's some priorities here at the Times that we need to get straight, and I
Yeah.
think the band is one of them.
I think that would be great for morale, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
Yeah,
It would. I think
that'd
it would
be-
fix things around here. I just have to say, on an incredibly immature level, that I'm really glad you wore the glasses because with the second season of Westworld alone, if you look on Twitter, there's entire threads
Yeah.
about Arnold's, how often he wears the glasses, takes them off, or peers over them. So I was like, please wear the glasses.
Yeah. Well, I think that comes from a group of our rabid Westworld fans who haven't yet quit or hit that age where you need reading glasses. So they really serve a very functional purpose. So if I can use your tablet here to demonstrate. So Bernard reading tablet, Bernard not walking into glass door. Reading tablet, not walking into glass door. It's it's just a practical thing that he was programmed with because Arnold followed that same
Right?
line of thinking. Yeah.
So, going into this season, one of my colleagues here interviewed Evan, Rachel Wood, and she was talking about how last season, when she talked to you on camera as Dolores, it was often as Arnold. This year, it's much more Bernard. And she said it is like two totally different people. And watching it, I see that as well. So, how do you feel when you're making that switch?
When we engage
Yes.
in those scenes.
Or even when you're playing, when you're going back and forth between the two.
Well, yeah. I mean, this year is the first time that we do see Bernard and Dolores together as we evolve, as the story evolves. As Ford has said previously, we have an odd effect on one another, so he's kind of kept them apart. We will get to a point where our paths may cross, and I think she in fact one day realized that she'd never had a scene with Bernard before, and that she was kind of curious about the differences that she felt because she noticed that he's slightly different than Arnold. I love working with Evan as either Bernard or Arnold. I just love the kind of intimacy that we've explored, and I've described it as kind of a dual meditation. Those diagnostic scenes between Arnold and her, really intimate and really subtle and nuanced and very internal, kind of a dual internal quality to them. In that we're almost inside of one another, which is the nature of that relationship. So it's just really just a wonderful partner. She's just a wonderful partner to work with, really open, giving, and we just find this balance together that I think we both genuinely enjoy playing. It's we find with all of my castmates, a different levels and different variety of things to play, but there's something about the intimacy with her that I particularly enjoy.
It's such a phenomenal cast. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Thandie Newton, and just wonderful.
Yeah, it's a rare thing, and it's not just the cast. It's the writing that we have the pleasure of delivering. It's the directors that we work with, our crew. Everyone is kind of A-game folks, and we are really thrilled at the material that we're working with. We're thrilled that we have to stretch ourselves and that we have to bring everything that we've done before and then more to the table in order to pull it off. It's insane, the schedule and the logistics of the show. And we gripe every once in a while, but mostly we love it, and we kind of throw ourselves into our 18-hour days, and at the end of it say, wow, man, that was something, and it's a rare thing, and it's a rare thing as well to find collaborative leads, Jonah Nolan, Lisa Joy, who insist on an efficiency, insist on hard work, but also insist on an atmosphere of respect, respect for everyone else involved, and respect for the work. And so, it's I've been in this business a long time. It's a funny old business, and I know when I'm a part of a good thing and when I'm with good folks, and that's what we have.
Right. I mean, and it's interesting too in that Westworld is a show. There's so many layers to it. Audiences really love to work at it. Like try and solve that puzzle, try and get below this layer, try and get below that layer. Right now, there's so much good TV, and that could have very easily worked against it. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like much easier to grab for the 15 other things you could be binging, but Westworld's really sucked people in. I mean, why do you think that is?
Well, I think because it is a challenge. I think the challenge from the first year was resolved in a satisfying way, that we're not here to kind of gratuitously toy with people. But layered into the technology and the narratives that we're describing, but particularly around the technology, are certain mysteries. And so, if you stay with us and go along for the ride and surrender as we do, then I think the satisfaction will pay off.
Right.
We're with you. We are with you. When we're working on this thing, we're trying to pull back these weird psychedelic onions as well, and try to figure, okay, where did it go? And the first, I think maybe 4 or 5 weeks of filming this season I shot probably 7 episodes.
Wow.
Randomly ordered, and not all of which I had fully read because they weren't fully polished, so I got only what I needed. I did that, and then I would do that in the morning, and then I would hop on the 5 in Bernard costume and drive up to the next unit and go, okay, what the hell am I doing now? All right. And it was, so, but what I did ultimately was I just kind of, I gave into it. I trust who I'm working with. I trust Jonah and Lisa tremendously. And I surrendered to it. It was also part of, in some ways, it reflected Bernard's place in the story, because he's at a very vulnerable place. His faculties aren't, what they might have been prior to taking the bullet to the hard drive, which can have adverse effects. So, he's struggling, and so it required me to really kind of focus on the cup and the water inside and the green of the leaf of that plant with the red tips, and focus on you and how you're sitting, and take it all in, all of like the kind of granular elements of the reality as we agree to it, or the realities in the and be in the moment. So it was a useful exercise to me. Just try to make it work, and not, freak too many people out on the 5, seeing what might be considered an autonomous car driving up the highway, and then it was being piloted by,
someone whose ear is leaking and
leaking
fluid
cortical
that needs
fluid stuff. Yeah, hard to find that at the local gas station in LA, but maybe one day.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what's so also really unique about Westworld, is that there are many shows out there that are kind of reflecting socially where we are, or maybe like on a political level. And I think what Westworld looks at is much more like the human condition, and how, humans are going to react to things, or what their desires are. And of course, they are very violent, and it often is super graphic and bloody. But it's interesting in that it looks at the motivations behind things that then, work out into what a society or a hierarchy or something like that,
I think it does that on several levels. On the basic kind of existential level, or on a level that examines the quality of humanness.
Yeah.
What are these elements that make us human? What are our drives? And the basic questions that we ask. What's your itinerary for the day? What are your drives? What's your cornerstone? What's your emotional core? All of these things that the hosts are programmed to recreate are metaphors for how we live our daily existences. And so it's a clever way to draw an audience in, but it's also a useful metaphor for examining those things that we ask of ourselves. Am I in control of this loop? Is this a satisfying loop? Do I want to break this loop? I think these are questions we ask ourselves. And I think back to your point too about there being so much content out there. And the challenge of breaking through is that we really give our audience credit. We're not particularly at this time, where so much messaging is designed to appeal to the lowest common denominators within us, and really speaking down to us and assuming the unintelligence of the audience. We don't do that. And we challenge the audience, and the audience challenges us, and they expect that there's going to be something bright, but also something that's within the landscape of the technology that we're discussing, logical and factually based to the extent that a futuristic show can be. But the questions around the technology that we use and our relationship to them have to be well considered, and I think that that's part of the attraction. And it's futuristic, but at the same time, it's a show very much about right now and about ourselves on a kind of universal level as humans. And so Jonah and Lisa take great care to respect those elements, and also to respect the audience, and we do as well. So.
Right.
There are multi-levels to the examination of the good old human condition.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because the idea of also instant gratification and like the price you pay for that, and you actually think about TV now, and it is so much about that, which is like
give us all. Let's binge on it. Let's just be content gluttons and take it all in. And Tandy made a good point the other day. She's like, we spent 6 packed months working on this thing. Please don't just take it all in one pizza filled sitting over the weekend. Give us, come on. We busted our backs to make this thing. So, and I like as well that at least to some extent our audience gathers together to watch this.
Yeah.
There used to be a time, I remember when we all used to sit around and we'd watch
radio.
We'd sit around the radio and we'd listen to FDR, and those were the days. But we all used to watch more or less the same things. We had 3 channels, and it created a kind of a unity, or kind of unified the conversation and our perspectives, and we sat around the fire together. We don't do that so much now. There are greater freedoms. That's great, but at the same time, I like the idea that we're taking this in together, and we're going on this journey together, and we're trying to unravel the mysteries together, and we're tweeting insane things during the course of the show together. I mean, I enjoy that about our show, and I think that's one of the aspects that HBO's format continues to bring, and I don't think we intend to change.
Right. It's interesting because when I look back at your history, and it seems that you got your start in the theater, or you came up in the theater. So, would you have thought at that point, like, okay, I will be a lead in a TV series? I mean, was that part of that trajectory that you looked at, or was it just like not even on the map?
No, I didn't. I thought it would be the most boring thing possible to be on a TV show and go through the same, story or tangents of a story, playing the same character, for multiple seasons. I thought I would not be able to tolerate that. But I didn't foresee a show like this, in which I'm playing one character, but variations of that character, and then a mirror reflection of that character, and mirror reflections of those reflections. And also, I didn't foresee the long form drama, and this is the first time that I've had an opportunity to be a part of this format. The first was with Boardwalk Empire, but I didn't come in at the start. I came in after, I guess, 4 seasons, when everybody else had been, digging that dirt and building that house, and then I came in and, grabbed myself a nice room, toward the end, but I didn't take the risk of building it, and so I enjoy that about Westworld, having taken that risk. But at the same time, working on Boardwalk gave me a sense of the ways in which great writers can build fascinating narrative arcs for the characters, and also, like in the theater, you have an opportunity to dive deeper into the character and really ground yourself into that person or thing, and provide nuance to it and shape to it that you can't do without that time. And so what I've found this year with Westworld is that, having spent the previous season, kind of evolving from there till now, that all of us are much more deeply grounded in these characters, and we understand them in an instinctual way now. And I find that really exhilarating, because when I work in the theater, what I love about it is, even though you're doing the same show, you have an opportunity to go back and really hone it and refine it and change that. Oh, the audience didn't dig that. Let me switch that. Let me
like each time you're going out. Yeah.
Every time. And I really enjoy the opportunity to find that one performance on a certain night in the course of, say, a year run on Broadway, where you say, it's not going to get better than that.
Right.
For example, when I went and did Angels in America, after 10 years after having done the show on Broadway for a year and a half, 7-hour play, just grinding it. By the time we came to film it, there wasn't much I needed to explore anymore. If I didn't know it by then, I wasn't going to find it.
Just take the best bits of what.
I just shaped it. Was there, and I'd been throwing away the worst bits as I, went along, and had honed it. And the only thing that I really worked on was kind of refining the performance so that it fit through the aperture of a camera, as opposed to, blasting it out to an audience of 800 or however many we fit into the Walter Kerr Theater. So, so that process of honing and refining is something that's very much a part of the way I work. And so, getting to do that now is something that I didn't necessarily foresee, but it really is a function of the quality of the writing that you're given.
Right. And just, backing up, when you were first approached with Westworld, had you seen the film?
I saw it after. I hadn't seen it. I missed it somehow as a kid. Yeah.
Interesting, because, I remember hearing that the series was going to happen, and I remember the film, and I'm just thinking, how the hell is that going to work?
Yeah.
It's such a different animal, so, yeah.
Well, I went back and watched it, and
Great in film, yeah.
Yul Brynner is phenomenal. The premise is extraordinary. Michael Crichton is a visionary thinker, obviously. Maybe not so much a visionary director. Maybe not. I mean, come on, we can't be all things. But it's still a fantastic film. But to in his defense, the technology at the time was we're playing Pong.
Right.
Maybe.
If even that, I don't even know if we were there yet.
Maybe at Pong, and this
Might
guy's like
pinball
envisioning
machines,
like the next level virtual reality, totally immersive experience. So he was a little bit ahead of the game, literally, and so now, as well, we the audience are merging with these machines in a way that we weren't there. So we have a fuller appreciation of it. But the technology of filmmaking, too, allows us to do things that only Stanley Kubrick might have been able to do back then. But for me, the script that I got, the pilot, was what kind of gave me a window on the path that we might be able to take, which is an expansive one. It was clear from the premise that we could potentially go anywhere with this story. But the script that Jonah and Lisa, I believe Jonah wrote the first script, that script that I was sent when I was talking to him, we would have Skype conversations, very kind of Westworldly, and we would have like, we would have these conversations over Skype about, what he'd like to do with the story and why
Were
he
you
wanted.
wearing the glasses? Can I just ask?
I don't recall if I was. I probably was, because I don't really see that clearly on a computer monitor without. So yes, I was, and I'm not sure if they were where they were. But when I read the script, and I read the script like this, I read them through, and then I look up and, if my kids need like food, I'll tell them I'll get it as soon as I finish. But so anyway, it's a simple thing. It's just kids. When you hit like 48, you'll get it. But when I read the script, it was incredibly efficient. The language was also wonderfully poetic. It had these mythic elements to it that you could, begin to imagine, the further exploration of, and it had this wonderful balance and the structure of it. If you go back to the pilot and you remember this kind of repetitive nature of it, but there was a balance to it, but there was an evolution within the balance, and then it was just the architecture of that script was so wonderful and was so outside the box of scripts that I had read, and I knew as well that J.J. Abrams was involved, and at the time Anthony Hopkins was on board, and I knew it was HBO, and I knew the quality of work there, and I said, yeah, that's a pretty good stew. That's a good gumbo right there. Yeah, I'll have some of that, and away we went.
All right, well, we have a question or some questions from fans. So Russ on Facebook is asking, how many fans have approached you and whispered, these violent delights have violent ends, into your ear?
Into my ear? I'll have to say none to this point, thankfully. I'm not sure. That could be pretty. That could be interpreted in a number of ways.
That would be scary, I would think. Maybe, right.
It could be. It could be. Or, it could be said lovingly.
Lovingly.
Or metaphorically.
A gentle caress on the arm.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose.
That would be even scarier, I would think. I'm just wondering, do people try and get information out of you about like what's coming next when fans see you out in the world?
Occasionally. I think the best example of that was after the election, asterisk, I was a part of a protest in New York because I just had to get it out. And it had to get out. It had to be known. And so, big crowd, going up to Troll Tower and, gathering around. And it was kind of a huge scrum, getting a little bit frayed on the edges, and, cops circling around. Some cops cool, some cops not. Some protesters cool, some not, as, the world turns. And this cop sees me in the middle of this. He goes, hey, are there multiple timelines?
You're like, I hope so, because this election.
Yeah, I didn't know if he meant, where we was. Oh, yeah, exactly. Maybe we can skip ahead. But he, that was the funniest encounter as far as someone trying to get information out. I really appreciated that.
Wow. So I just have a quick lightning round of questions for you. What was the last show you binge watched?
Last show I binged watch might be Soderbergh's show, The Nick.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. In fact, a little bit of trivia. First face you see in The Nick is Monty Stewart. Who is Monty Stewart? He is Wrangler extraordinaire for Westworld.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I actually worked with Monty many years ago on a film called Ride with the Devil that Ang Lee directed out in Missouri, in Kansas City. He put us through our paces on our, on the horses, and
Right.
man, great guy, tremendous horseman, and
You're around a lot of horses in what you're doing.
yeah, horses and all that they bring to any given
All the
set.
mechanics of
All
horses.
the mechanics and all the their various excretions.
If you could go back and be on any TV show ever, what would it be?
Oh wow, any TV show ever, what would it be? Man, I'm torn. It would be maybe Sanford and Son. I'd be some kind of like odd neighbor.
I was going to say a wacky neighbor.
Yeah. Or long lost cousin, nephew. Or I would maybe, I don't know, maybe I'd go back and I'd find some, I'd be Eartha Kitt's like partner in crime on Batman or something, I'd do something like that. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be, and it would come with an outfit. It would come with, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd hang out, Julie Newmar. I'd support Julie Newmar too, but, yeah, I'd do that.
A lot of people watch TV to unwind. What do you do to unwind?
I surf.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. All right.
Yeah, I surf. We film out here, obviously, so if I'm not on set, I'm in the water. I try to be. So if I have a morning off, I get down to the ocean before. If I have an afternoon off, as soon as we wrap, I'm like looking at my watch to figure out if I can get to the water before it gets too dark. And if I'm here on the weekends, I'm out there. Yeah,
Is that something you've been doing for like a lifelong type thing, or something you picked up new as a?
No, I started surfing about 6 years ago. My daughter and my son and I went out to Hawaii. My daughter wanted to surf. Want to take surf lessons. I gotta surf, Dad. I gotta surf. She was like 7 years old. I realized that she had been watching Barbie videos at a friend's house. And that Malibu Barbie surfed. I figured it out. I did the detective work later.
Okay.
And I was like, we gotta surf this out. So we did. We took a couple lessons, and I was like, whoa, I dig this. And then went back and worked on the Hunger Games later that year, as it turned out, for a month on the North Shore of Hawaii. And I took a couple more lessons, then I bought a board and just started going out, and I haven't been able to stop since. I used to skateboard when I was a kid, kind of religiously.
Okay, so same.
Yeah, so it was like finding like the big brother of a long lost friend, because I broke my leg riding in a pool when I was 14, and so I put my boards to the side then, because I played some others, so I couldn't play football that fall, and so anyway, yeah, I stopped skating, but now the water is much softer than the concrete I've found.
Do you think we have time for one more question, or okay? What do you know now that you wish you knew on your first acting job?
What the hell I was doing. Yeah. That always helps.
That helps.
Yeah, the first wasn't the very first acting gig I had was children's theater, actually, down in D.C. I used to go around metropolitan D.C. schools like at 6 in.the morning, getting up, going to school, and we do American history through folk tales. I think I played John Henry, Hiawatha, Davy Crockett's grandfather, father, and who else did I play? I played a runaway slave in the Harriet Tubman story, and and various things. We kind of, I'm an old timer, excellent rhymer. I still remember that for some reason. Anyway, but that was my first gig, so that was just kind of like cartoon history for the kids. But my first kind of significant film gig was a mini-series that I did called Separate But Equal on the Brown versus Board of Education case. Sidney Poitier played Thurgood Marshall. Burt Lancaster played John Davis, who was the opposing, it was John Davis, the opposing attorney in that case. It was his last film. I didn't work with him, unfortunately. Didn't get a chance to meet him. We were on parallel sides of that story, but I worked with Sidney, Cleavon Little, Albert Hall, who was in Apocalypse Now, which is like the mantra-like movie that runs through my head, which I've seen multiple hundreds of times. And so it's an incredible experience. But my first single, all close-up-ish, was opposite Sidney Poitier.
Wow.
I was like 21 years old, maybe 22. I had only started acting as a junior in college. I was a political science major, which is part of why I got the gig, because I had a background in, this stuff, and I'd read, the book that it was based on. And anyway, so I'm sitting there opposite Sidney Poitier, and the camera's rolling, and I've been acting generally for 3 years, and I'm freaked out.
How could you not be? I mean,
I have no clue what I'm doing.
Wow.
But I'm doing it, So yeah.
And here you are now.
Yeah. So if I had been there and knew a little bit more about what I know now, then nothing, it was what it was. It was beautiful, and he was so generous, such a organically, and I don't use this term often because I don't believe in royalty, but such an organically regal man.
Wow.
Just a beautiful man, and just a fantastic entree into this thing for me.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful talking to you.
Cool.
And if you'd like to hear more and see more and read more, please go to latimes.com. Thank you.